All right, let's talk about IGN, because IGN here is in a world of shit. All right, it's in a world of shit. And being the biggest name in video game coverage, the biggest name in entertainment news online, pretty much, you do not want to be in the world of shit that it finds itself in here. Because it says here that IGN pulls a game review after YouTubers' plagiarism accusations. The game site is investigating the review similarities. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what we know about IGN, just this is stuff like Greg Miller has talked about from before, is that IGN doesn't have editors. They used to have editors that would look over things, that would spell check and fact check certain things. They used to actually have a department for that. Now they don't. They put out so much content, so quick, so fast, so crazy that they get stuff out the door that they rarely ever check for spelling errors or grammatical errors. I read IGN articles all the time that have misspellings or problems with punctuation and grammar. They don't care anymore because the idea is not about being right. The idea is about being first. Okay. It's the exact opposite of how you should approach sex. You should never be first. Always make sure your partner is a person being taken care of. It makes you a generous lover. All I'm saying is we need more people out there being generous lovers. But when it comes to this particular story, though, this is what we know. Now, reviews for indie action game Dead Cells began to roll out yesterday, and while the Metroidvania has been well received by critics, an assessment by the leading video game website IGN is drawing controversy due to its similarity to an existing YouTube review of the game. On July 24th, YouTube channel Boomstick Gaming uploaded a 4-minute overview of Dead Cells, a roguelike that it praised for its unique marriage of combat and exploration. With 16,000 followers, Boomstick Gaming is a small channel that averages under 5,000 views per video. IGN, on the other hand, is the biggest gaming website on the internet, and its YouTube channel has around 10 million subscribers, which is true, they do, but at the same time, they ultimately don't pull in 10 million views per video. In fact, their subscriber to viewer ratio is probably worse than mine, actually way worse than mine, because of the type of varied content they put out. They might have the subscriber count, but it ultimately doesn't mean much if the views aren't there, and that's just kind of the way that it works in regards to YouTube. Hashtag the more you know. But anyway, it says here, in a video uploaded yesterday, Boomstick Gaming compares his existing video review with IGN's, highlighting a number of similarities between the two. Beyond the repetition of certain buzzwords and phases, the general framework of both reviews appear to be the same. The focus and wording on the reviews is so aligned that the YouTuber highlights multiple time codes where the two uncannily overlap. So in the Boomstick Gaming, he says here, his review, in Dead Cells, you will need to kill your way through a labyrinth of levels, all punctuated by boss encounters that starts off quite linear. But the more you play the routes and the game mechanics open up to you. You might not be able to make it to the final boss on your current run, but if you manage to salvage some blueprints for some new gear, or better yet, an ability-altering rune, it makes it all worth your while. So then IGN here says, at 25 seconds compared to the 15 seconds, in Dead Cells, you fight your way through an ever-changing labyrinth of levels with branching paths. You're almost guaranteed not to make it all the way through every run, but as your efforts lead you to the blueprints that unlock new gear, it makes it all worth your while. So there are elements there that overlap, obviously. There are elements there that do very much kind of feel similar. But part of me is like, okay, so yeah, I get it. The guy was clearly like influenced by this thing, and he probably pulled what he said and then just recalibrated it, reworded it. Which I guess you could say that like imitation is the highest form of flattery, so to speak. But when you are writing a review, you really want to actually question yourself, or question, did this person play it in this regard? Like plagiarizing somebody's content. If you're trying to capitalize on their point, makes sense. We see this in articles all the time. You see people that are summarizing what somebody else says. Obviously, that's the thing. That's the case. But in reviews, you want it to come from you specifically. So yeah, there's definitely an issue here, because here's the thing. If it was one time, I would get it, but it's not, because the article does go on to say, the entire structure of my video, this is coming from Boomstick, was copied, and many sentences are almost identical with high school levels of word changing, which, to be fair, that is kind of how things are in regards to the journalism today. Now, a page that previously hosted the Dead Cells written and video review, both of which were composed by Nintendo editor Filip Miucin, I don't know if I'm saying that right, has been removed and replaced with a statement from IGN. As a group of writers and creators who value our own work and that of others in our field, the editorial staff of IGN takes plagiarism very seriously. In light of concerns that have been raised about our Dead Cells review, we've removed it for the time being and are investigating. While the plagiarism accusation has been live for less than a day, it's already accrued over 119,000 views and attracted hundreds of enraged comments. Boomstick Gaming says that it has contacted IGN about the issue, but has not heard back. Miucin, for his part, said on Twitter that this was the first video review that he edited for IGN. Saying here that I would like to be cited, collaborated with, and compensated for the healthy ad revenue they pulled in on both their written review and video review, Boomstick Gaming told The Verge. I've been doing YouTube since 2006 as a hobby, and I found somewhat of a following recently. A few months ago, I started a Patreon that helps me continue what I enjoy doing by accepting donations from fans of my videos, but that has seen little to no success. And as a person who has a Patreon since 2013, dude, I totally get it. But you're in a different situation than me. You were literally ripped off. I completely understand that. Now, again, here's kind of how I view the situation. What we have here probably is someone who is lazy, someone who was trying to maybe get this review out on a deadline and was watching other reviews on YouTube as a way to maybe, better formulate some thoughts, right? And there are people out there that do that they look at what other people say and they try to repurpose it for themselves. What he did here, at least according to Boomstick, at least according to this one example, is take what appears to be a paragraph and shorten it to 3 sentences while still relatively embodying the exact same idea. Is that plagiarism? Honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you that it is or that it isn't. IGN is going to investigate this, and I'm pretty sure what they're going to discover is that Filip, whatever his name is, if he has a history of doing this, then yes, I would argue that was in fact plagiarism. But at the same time, is it as big of a deal as people are making it out to be? Now, it's IGN, for example, so this is one of the reasons why it's as big as it is. We've heard stories about journalists doing scummy things who work for smaller websites, but this is IGN. They should be not doing this sort of thing. And like I said before, there's no editors there, right? They don't really ever take the time to do the fact checking to make sure that they're above board, to make sure that they are sticking to high ethical practices. And as far as I know, even Filip himself, this is kind of what I read. And I want to point out, I don't know how true this is, but I did read that he is a freelancer. And freelancers, they never really hold themselves. They're never really held to the same kind of, ethical standards in many cases. They're just kind of brought in, do this thing, and then go. But why would a freelancer tackle Dead Cells for the Switch? They have an entire division dedicated to that. So I don't know how true that is. So it's one of those things where it's like, if this is plagiarism, then how many other reviews out there are? I mean, how many things have you ever written? Have you ever copied a joke on Twitter and, pass it off as your own? That's kind of plagiarism. Or have you repurposed the joke to make it punchier? I understand where Boomstick's coming from, and I think he'll get a lot of attention off of this, 100%. He will get a lot of attention, which is ultimately going to benefit him in the long run. But at the end of the day, this to me almost kind of feels like a bit of a non-issue, because I haven't seen the review. The review was taken down, so I haven't been able to compare the two and see if it's apples to apples or apples to oranges. I don't know yet. But if this is an ongoing problem with this reviewer, with this critic, rather than this is like a prevalent problem. So let me say, okay, if this is a one-off accident, then kind of let it be done. Say, look, he was influenced by this review, subconsciously he did it, blah, 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 move on with your day. But if it's an ongoing pattern, an ongoing problem, then yeah, I would say let him go and bring someone in who isn't going to do that, because there is so much content. I'll give you guys an example. I was reading a Black Hat forum, and this is what some people do. I was reading a Black Hat forum for how to get ahead on YouTube recently, and there was a comment on there about how to repurpose articles in another language, put them through Google Translate, clean them up a little bit, and then basically just pass them off as your own here in America, because people in America aren't going to go looking for what somebody said in another country. All right. They're not going to do that. So the likelihood of you ever actually being caught is very minimal. So, and again, I'm not advocating for that. That's just something I read that some people have done. And I'm wondering if this is one of those situations where, this is just what happened. So I don't know. We'll have to wait to find out what happens. We'll have to wait to see what happens with the investigation. At face value, it doesn't look good for IGN, and it shouldn't look good for IGN. Boomstick is going to do well off of this. He's going to get what he's going to grow, and that's going to be really good. And in the meantime, if you want to get into this game, if you want to get into games journalism, it is better to write your own stuff. It is better to not read other people's reviews, to not watch other people's reviews until you've created your own. That's what I do when I review anything. I try not to read anyone's reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I try not to read anyone's reviews on any websites or watch any review videos until after I've seen something. So then I'm not influenced by somebody else's thoughts as I go in to espouse what I believe about something. Anyway, it's a situation, but I am really curious to know what you guys have to say about it.